Listen, what's something everybody's always told you about electronics? You want to have good electronics on your boat, you need what, $40,000? $20,000? It's always a crazy number. What if I told you, you won't believe this, what if I told you you could get the electronics that you need for your boat $1,000 a piece? Just depends on how many units you want to put on your boat. If you want to put 2 units on there, you need $2,000. You want to put 3 on there, you need $3,000. Lowrance has come out with a new Elite series of graphs. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I've been out here with these today. The forward faces on our own is pretty freaking crispy. So I've got JJ or CJ?
CJ.
CJ. All right, so his dad's name's JJ. He's CJ. So I got him mixed up a little bit. But he rigged out this boat that I'm in today with these units. And so these are economy-based units?
Yes, these are
$1,000.
These are very economical. The one with the transducer, that's an active image 3-in-1 transducer. It's $9.99, and then you have just the base one that you just can use for active target or mapping. That'll run you $8.99. Very economical, very awesome units. These are very similar to the HDS Live and the HDS Pro series, and the fact that they're the same resolution on the touchscreens. So you're getting that IPS touchscreen, the nice glass. So, and you don't even have to worry about hitting buttons. I mean, the whole unit is touchscreen.
Perfect. All right, here's the cool thing about this boat. So this boat has dual units. It's got the Boat Logix mount here on the console. It's got one at the front as well. Now, I'll get to that here in a minute. Let's just talk about the bow at first. How he's got these graphs set up, and how just a couple things that you could do to get more out of your units. Really it doesn't matter what kind of graphs you got. It doesn't matter if you've got HDS Pros or if you got the Elite FSs. It really doesn't matter. There's a couple things that I think that I like the way these units are rigged, and I like the way the settings are on here. I'm gonna let CJ tell me a little bit more in depth because he knows all the verbiage about it. I'll punch around on the screens until it starts to look right, and don't really know what I'm talking about or doing. I just punch on stuff until it starts to give me what I need. Hey, real quick, this year I'm actually sponsoring 2 fishermen. Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna pay the entry fees, tournament entry fees, provide gear and tournament support for 2 anglers to fish the BFLs. Here's how you win that. You gotta be a part of my straight up fishing community, my straight up fishing school, where I teach people how to be a better fisherman. Not only do you learn fishing lessons from me, but sometimes we bring in other professionals to talk about specific techniques, baits, and even talk about new gear that's hitting the market before most people even know about it. So join the community, check the description box for more details about how you can be a sponsored angler. So if you want to get the most out of your units, CJ, what's a few things, let's say 3 things everybody needs to pay attention to if they want to get the most they possibly can get out of their units?
So one of the number one most important thing is what frequency you're running. So if you're a very deep fisherman, you know, if you're idling ledges, stuff like that, I like to really stay around that 455 kilohertz. And when I'm usually shallow, I'll bump up my kilohertz. A lot of people, especially with the pros, they're running that 1075 megahertz on the shallow water just to get more of an image, to get a more detailed image. So basically, the higher the kilohertz you're putting out there, the more detailed the image is, the better the feedback is going to be. Lower the kilohertz, you're going to get more out there. You're going to see farther out. All
right, so let's look at this on this unit right here. See, it's got it on 455 right now. Now, if somebody wanted to change this, let's say if we got the wrong settings, what you do is just go, let me back out so we can start it all over again. That's so if you want to change that setting, you're going to go to menu. You can see it pops up right here, frequency, and you're going to have your choices there.
Right. You can go to 800 right now, and you're going to see the image will get darker, because what it's gonna do is you got to go higher on the contrast, but you're going to get more detail out of that image. Whereas the 455, you're going to actually be able to see out further, so you're going to get past 100 feet.
Gotcha. And the time that I'd want to use the 800 kilohertz would be
shallow water. Mostly anything under 10 foot of water. That's where I usually run it. But if I'm anywhere, you know, below 10 foot of water, if I'm in that 15 to 20 foot range, I'm going to be on 455.
455. Got it. For you guys fishing deep, 455. You're looking for more detailed, shallow, 800 kilohertz. All right, what's another thing?
So basically, a lot of times too, it's color palette. So all of us see these colors differently. You know, some of us may be colorblind. We may look at stuff a little different. I know that I have always used the blue on Lowrance. That's what I always like.
That's what you got here.
Yes, that's what I got there.
Blue.
Whereas somebody, they may look at the blue and say it's too blown out for them. They may have to go to an orange, or they may have to even go to the inverse grayscale. It's all personal preference. It's all what your eyes see, because everybody sees things differently.
Perfect. So if we want to change the color palette, let's look at the color palette. That's not here. We're going to go to menu, right? So let me start over again. If you want to change your color palette, menu, right here on color palette, and he's chosen 9, choice 9 there. And so how about contrast on there? Do you have a preferred setting on contrast?
So contrast, usually it starts out, it's going to be basically in the mid 70s on that contrast. So I think that one's on about 76, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 76. I might have bumped it to 78, but 76 to 78.
Usually you want to run a little hotter just to be able to see schools of fish on side scan, down scan of course as well. But you know, staying around that 70 mark is usually good. The only time that it gets to where I have to bump it down is if I'm in real hard bottom, where the return is just real bright and real out there. So that's the only time I bump the contrast down.
Gotcha. Other thing we want to talk about is we were just talking about, let me just start over. Oh, all the time. I done did it 80 times. Why do you think I've been out in the boat 2 hours?
Oh, I know. I know.
Color shading. One of the most important things, we were just discussing this, thinking of 3 things that will help you with your units, get more out of them, and color shading came up. The reason color shading is important, those are your contours, guys. When you're fishing offshore, especially if you're fishing offshore, all you're looking for is the differentiation. The humps, the high spots, the bars where it's closer together, that's obviously going to be somewhere steeper. A lot of times I can tell you where it's rocky areas, especially when you're fishing up north. So color shading can help you catch more fish, literally. So let's show you how we color shade on these Lowrance units. So let's start. This one's just easier to film, so than here it just makes it easier to go back and forth.
Right. Yeah. So we'll have to go to chart.
Let's get the chart. If you want to change your color shading on your units, this is how we're going to teach you how to do that right now.
Okay, this one's perfect because it's on the default. So.
Oh yeah, it's on blue. This one was already.
Yep.
Already. It's even better.
So basically, starting off, you're gonna hit menu.
Menu.
More options down here on the bottom.
More options.
All right, you'll scroll down and you'll see chart options.
And chart options.
Scroll back down again, you'll see shading.
Got it.
All right, so Lowrance does a great job they do preloaded shading. So you don't have to go through and shade it yourself if you don't want to. So hit depth 1 and it's pre-shaded.
Perfect. So let's scroll out to somewhere where, you know, like out here on the ledges and stuff, you can see. So let's go. I'm gonna take it off so they can see what it looks like before.
Yep.
See what that looks like? Just blue. Just shades of blue and black lines. When you hit depth 1, automatically. Now look how much all those contours show up. Look at, especially in this area right here. You see how easy you can see all the points, all the ditches, all the high spots, low spots. That's the reason you want to do color shading right there. Now let's go back to, what did we do? We went here. How did you do it? We went there, charts, more options.
Chart options.
Chart options. Scroll down to shading. Let's look at contour 2. Now notice we can run 2 and 1 at the same time. What is that about?
So 2 and 1 is basically going to get a mix of your contours. So if you have a certain one, like on depth 1, the shading 1 and the shading 2, if you have some different kind of contour set up as far as shading, it'll kind of combine them together, so you're getting a mix of your depth 1 and your depth 2. So to where you can see right here, like the depth 2 had like a kind of a pinkish, so it made it to where it's kind of like a little bit of a pinkish greenish. So now it's going to be a little bit different. So we'll go back to where Brian was at. So this shading here, so you can see the kind of the blue, it blends together so that you're able to, you know, you're able to get yourself a little bit more of a different color than what is basically previous on there. So we'll go back to more options, chart options, scroll back down to shade to shading. So basically I'll take depth 1 off, and you see how it kind of disappeared, a lot of the green, but I'll put it back on, a lot of the green will come back, so you can see it's going to make it a little darker. Whereas I take depth 2 off, it's going to change it back to more of that orangish, that reddish. So if you do a custom depth palette, you can really mix colors between depth 1 and depth 2.
I like that one the best.
I like it as well.
Depth 1 is the one.
And those all come preloaded on all Lowrance models.
Yeah, let's go out. Let's go out, zoom out into the lake, and you can see how much that just makes everything shine, pop out at you. With these Elite 9 FSs, I know one of the questions y'all may have is, if I buy a $1,000 unit and my buddy old Joe Gibbs has got a $3,000 unit, $4,000 unit, the HDS Pros, am I gonna see the same thing that he's seeing? Is it gonna be as clear? So I'm gonna let CJ elaborate on that. Will you get the same image quality? Will you be able to see the fish just as good with these lower price units? What do you think?
Yes, I think that you can see them just as good, even if you have, let's just say you have a HDS 12 Pro. Your buddy has a Pro, and I have the Elite FS9. I'm gonna see the exact same clarity as the person with the Pro. It's all about the screens and the processors. So the processors of the Elite FS9 and the Pros are very similar. So you're going to see, I'm going to see the same bait fish that I'm seeing right there. I'm going to see the same exact things that my buddy with the Pro is going to be seeing on this. The only time that you get up to a real like 2K image is whenever you jump up to your 16 Pros and stuff like that. That's the only time you're going to see a real big difference, and even that, it's not really a very big difference. It's very minute stuff.
That's perfect. Let's talk about battery configuration. That can be especially when you're starting to run 4 units like this, you really got to put some thought behind how are you going to put power to these units. CJ's got a really I think it's a really simple yet thoughtful process that he's got this boat rigged at. I'm gonna let him tell you more about it because I would botch it all up.
So basically here we got 3 stages of batteries. I have over here on my left-hand side, on the left-hand side of the boat, I have my trolling motor section. This has the trolling motor breaker, and it has 2 interstate batteries in series together, 24 volt. Over here on the cranking side, we have a single cranking battery. It's a SMR 27 interstate that's specifically for cranking this big motor, running pumps, and running the switches in the boat. Then you have this 12 volt 100 amp hour lithium here that is running specifically electronics. Now we have a custom in-house harness that we make. That's why you can see North Florida Sonar's on there. That does nothing but electronics. Brian, you can shine right in there where that disconnect is. You'll see all the fuses, everything's labeled back there. Mostly important things is having a dedicated battery for your electronics. Not only is it this, but it's having dedicated wiring. It's having your wiring done right. So that is very important on these setups like this. Now whenever you get into like the 36 volt setups and you're gonna have 5 batteries, a lot of times it's good to use like a 4 or 5 bank charger at that point. But on this one, we have actually 2 battery chargers. We have 2 Minn Kota Precisions in here that actually you can set priorities on, so you can charge that lithium back there while you have your lead acid. So if you ever go and you upgrade batteries to single lithiums and stuff like that, you can change the priorities. But that's how we set up the backs of these boats. We like everything to have their own dedicated station.
If you found this clip from Straight Up Fishing School helpful for you at all, I'd love to have you in the group of anglers that we have within our school. This is a great place for you guys to learn the best gear, the best places, the best techniques to help you catch more fish. Fishing actually isn't as hard as you may think it is. You just got to understand a few fundamental principles to help you catch more fish. Check the link in the description box of this video or the comment section. Click on it, join the group. Fishing is going to be a lot more fun when you understand the very simple truths to help you catch more fish.